Our next panel would be about nation builders, women at the helm of India's future. For this particular panel, we are calling on stage Kalli Purie, who is the Vice Chairperson for India Today Group. And this particular panel will again be moderated by Kanksshi Agarwal, founder of NETRI Foundation and the convener of Oxford India Forum.
There's a long conversation about having women, always talking about women, and that's not the session at all. The session is called Bridges Across Centuries, Leadership Lessons for the Algorithm Age. And I am honored to be sitting here with you. You are not new to Oxford at all. And we are here to really talk about what is changing in the world and how it is rewriting so much in institution building, in leadership, and your own perspective on what will work in the world. On that note, Kalli, the first thing that we really want to begin with is drawing an example such as Oxford itself. We are sitting in one of the largest and the oldest institutions in the world. What are some of the examples that we can draw from Oxford in institution buildings? And what is it that leaders really need to cultivate if they want to build lasting legacies and lasting institutions?
So thank you everyone, first of all, for being here with me in the sauna. It's quite nice. Secondly, it's nice to be back in Oxford. It's a funny kind of role because I feel as if I'm in a tutorial and I have an audience with Kanksshi here being my tutor. Also, thirdly, it's odd to be the person on this side because I'm normally asking the questions. So a nice reversal of roles, thank you. I think that Oxford has really survived the test of time. And it's the oldest university, at least in the English-speaking school. I've been corrected today to say it's not the oldest in the world. And I think that the reason why it survived the test of time is because it understands its core. And that's the basics of building an institution that is going to survive ages. So you have to understand your sanctum sanctorum and protect it and nurture it. And I think Oxford has done that very well. To me, I think it's the tutorial system that is really the key or the atom or the nucleus of the Oxford education system. And Oxford, in spite of so many changes and demands, has held on to that system. And in an age where AI is coming in such a big way with ChatGPT, etc., they feel that this personalized tutorial system will make them, in a sense, AI-proof. Because you may do your essay on ChatGPT, but when you're sitting next to your tutor and you have to explain that essay, no ChatGPT is going to come and help you. I can take that same example from my own organization and group. We're the India Today group. We started with a news magazine almost 50 years ago. We used to take out a magazine once in 2 weeks. Now we put out 2,000 pieces of content a day, right? So in that sense, the organization has changed in the number of platforms we engage with, the number of times we engage with our audience. But at the DNA, at the very basic level, we're the same. We're just storytellers, very similar to Ronnie, except his is fiction, ours is news. Having said that, fiction and news is kind of blurring these days. So we'll go with the fact. Yeah, exactly. It's starting to look more exciting than fiction, by the way. Okay, so you have competition. So I think that protecting that basic nucleus, which is that we are storytellers, but we must innovate in all the tools that are available to us as technology moves to tell that story the best that we can. And I think that that's one of the reasons that we stand here today as a media organization still delivering impact, right? Because we stuck to that basic DNA. So it's the same as a person. A successful person has to understand their core. If you don't understand your basic core and protect that and be authentic to it, then you cannot really be successful in anything that you do.
And that, you said, is the secret sauce now for building legacy and institutions in the coming age of AI. But also, because we're speaking of AI, and we did speak about how AI is sort of trained on the data of the past, it has its own biases. In that challenging environment, what is the role of the current institutions and organizations to challenge the kind of AI systems that are being built? And what role, again, the human in the loop, as we talk about in usually AI and governance slide, how would that look like?
So look, I love AI first of all, and we're experimenting a lot with AI because we believe that if you are going to survive, you need to jump into the deep end and then see what comes out, right? So with any technology we do that, and we have found that very good things come up, right? So in AI also we're deep in there. We're creating AI anchors. We're using it in workflow processes. We're creating AI pop stars. We're doing all kinds of things. But to me, the problem with AI is that because we have no transparency on the data sets that it's being trained on, we don't know what biases it's coming in with. And more often than not, my suspicion is that it is being trained on data sets of the past, which means it's a world that was. It's not the world that we want, right? And so a lot of prejudices, etc., that we've fought against, whether it's gender equality or diversity, right, are going to come back with the AI piece, and that worries me. Having said that, I think three things are going to survive in this age of AI, because this age of AI and whatever is happening around us around right now is very chaotic. And there are three things that survive in chaos, and I've said this often. People who love change and hate monotony, and they look at change as a way to write a new story, as a new opportunity. By the way, journalists love new things. They love change. They want to go out and explain that unanswered story, or question that is out there. Come find an answer to it. Number two, Indians. Indians love chaos. They thrive in chaos. They do not like rules. Have you seen a lion and have you seen Indians? Do they follow? No. But they're used to that. They like to make their own rules to do things. That's where jugaad comes from, right? And we're very good at that. So Indians are going to survive this age of chaos. I think they're very well placed. I think the third category of people who do very well in chaos is intuition. People who rely on intuition because you have no data sets. You cannot do analysis by paralysis. You cannot make 2 by 2s because that doesn't exist. You have to go with your gut feel. And by the way, who's very good with gut feel? Women. Women are biologically trained to rely on intuition. So if you can see, I've led you very, very closely and carefully into a space to say that me, an Indian newswoman, is very well set to deal with the AI.
I love that. That is the power of a good storytelling. Adding that, and I'm just probing it further.
Yes.
If we say what is the role of media and academia in steering that new generation of this intuitive AI, human in the loop, like what can academia do? What can media institutions really do to sharpen that focus?
So look, the role of media really is to reflect the world, but also to show it what it can be. So I call it the French fries broccoli philosophy, right? Like you have to serve people a little bit of French fries, which is kind of what they want to see, a little bit of confirmation bias, and then you have to slip in a little bit of broccoli, which is maybe something that they don't really want to know, or they don't want to hear about, right? If you do just one or the other, it's not going to work. So I think that's one of the biggest roles of media. A lot of media around the world is aligned. Aligning politically is very commercially profitable, right? Because you're able to deliver confirmation bias, so you get much higher views, you get much higher revenues. Also, you have protection because you are aligned with one side or the other. So it is not profitable not to be aligned. But so far, because the old style of journalism is not to be aligned, you're always doing balance and you're always showing both sides of the story. And for whatever reason, we stayed old-fashioned, like Oxford, right? And I look at my newsroom really like a giant tutorial where you have consensual confrontation, as we call it. And we've done a couple of things, I think, in our newsroom and in the organization, which I think is the way forward with media, right? One is to create a democratic newsroom. So we go out and effectively look for journalists and anchors that widely differ in their views. And by the way, if you ask any journalist, they all think they're balanced. Nobody thinks they're aligned on one side or the other, right? It's only when you look at it from the outside you can see it. So putting them in the same newsroom to debate a story, which leads to very fiery debates in the newsroom, and every day when you come out of the news meeting, there are some bruised egos. But I think what it does is it really tosses a story around and gets both sides to at least see the other side. To say that, look, there is another side. You may not agree with it, but there is another side. So you get a much more calibrated approach to a story or to an issue. The second thing we started is because of this algorithms of engagement, of hate, as you can call it, we have got these bubbles and these echo chambers where people are just sort of believing, what they have been fed, and they are not able to see the other side. And we've seen this mostly in America. We're seeing it now. Like the MAGA just doesn't believe the non-MAGA; they just don't believe in that reality. We started something called CCC, Candid Constructive Conversations, where we get people from completely opposite sides to talk to each other. Now, this is the first attempt to at least say, okay, you may not agree with each other, but at least listen to the other guy, at least accept the fact that there is another story, right? The third thing we've done is something called gross domestic behavior, GDB versus GDP, right? Because we feel, okay, GDP is important, which is the gross domestic product, but it isn't the whole story. You also need to be well balanced, well behaved individuals coming in from a country. And this survey goes out for the first time to quantitatively assess civic behavior. What are your attitudes towards gender, towards bias, towards diversity? And hopefully in that way make Indians better behaved, wherever they are in the world.
Right, and you've really touched upon the candidness and the constructiveness in the same breath. In that order, when we do look at India right now, it is emerging to be a world's largest economy. We are already we have surpassed Japan. We are going to be surpassing Germany very soon. What do you think all of this constructively, and how does it constructively feeds into India's growth story into the next decade? Is India the place for opportunity? Is India the place for business? Is India the place for telling these stories and getting your worth for money?
So, as a storyteller, one of the things I can't keep in my head are numbers and figures. I know them, but I can't keep them in my head. They're like something that I need when I need to use them. So I always keep an iPad that I have like all the facts and figures to tell you. But you know what? I think you have enough people here to tell you about the market, the growth story, how well India is growing, blah, blah. I don't want to talk about that. Let me talk about 4 other things, right, which I think are more important. I think it's about people. You've got young, smart people who are willing to work. No work from home, no hours, no weekends, whatever. They want to do the work. I think that makes a very big difference, right? You have a government that is stable, that is strong, that is democratically elected, that is willing to do things that are long term. They don't kind of view it as, oh, I need to do this short term politically, but long term goals, which very often you don't get in a government. So, it's a good place to work like that. Culture-wise, I think we're very rooted in ancient wisdom. A society that is rooted, it's not scattered, and I think that our tradition and culture makes us rooted, and that is a good place to work because, your business, if you come in there, will thrive for these reasons. And of course, last but most importantly, people who are ready to find solutions. You find an Indian, you will find a solution, right? You know this. So I think that that's really important. And anyone thinking of doing a business in India should keep those 4 things in mind over and above all the facts and figures and the analysis and paralysis that you will do, right?
Right. And we did discuss this term that that the role of media could be also in sharpening people's collective critical thinking. Do you want to say a little bit more about not only media but like the storytelling, the art of storytelling, the fact that you just said that Indians will always find a solution. What is maybe some of our solutions for collectively thinking more critically? And when I say critically, I also mean in terms of solution and innovatively and not just following the traps of the status quo that we have.
Look, I think one of the rarest things in this world at this moment in time is our attention, right? It's very easy to swipe right, swipe left, not give something more than a minute, 30 seconds, right? And I think one of the things that we need to do collectively is give our attention to things that enhance us, nurture us, augment us. too often we are doing things that titillate us versus things that may enhance us. And so collectively, as a society, as a world, we have to focus on giving things our attention that may be better for the world, and not being so sort of impatient with things, right? I have, with a lot of my stories on social and digital, barely 4 seconds to attract your attention. 4 seconds, right? Now, and if I do something clickbaity, then we'll get told, oh, you're doing things for clickbait. Okay, how should I get your attention? So it's a very fine balance, right? Of being able to get your attention, to be able to say something to you, which may be of importance, and at the same time, not doing it in a way which is offensive or titillating, right? So I think one of the things that everyone can do is just be a little bit more mindful about things we're spending time on. I think that that's the most important thing. I mean, we're seeing what's happening in the Twitter space, where foreign policy is just happening on a live basis, right? Every time you go back, something new has happened, right? There's no sort of thought and mindfulness going into something which is very important for the rest of the world.
Right. So we also like touched on the dark side of AI and technology here, in the sense that while we are being mindful of keeping the humans in the loop, but again we are exacerbating the same biases or the behavioral patterns that we have had so far. One of the questions that I also wanted to say, talk to you about is, because you've been both at Harvard and Oxford, how do you want to comment on the consequences of both these different kind of educational institutes? How can they prepare these leaders that we are talking about? What can they learn from each other to invest in the world that we want to build?
You are spending too much time on media. You're putting a speaker in a spot. Today I'm in Oxford, so I say Oxford is the best. No, that's not true. I think that no. I'm not saying Oxford is not the best. That's not true. I mean, I'm not saying it because I'm here. I'm saying that Oxford is the best because it was my undergraduate degree. My whole basis is from here. But also, having studied in Howard, I think it's a very dynamic place as well. But Oxford is very understated, a little bit like the national character of the country. It resides in a little bit stiff upper lip, a little bit exclusive, and a little bit closed door, right? Whereas America is very open, very friendly, over marketed, right? And very open. And I think that the two are very different in that sense. Of course, you get to meet the brightest in both places, and argument, dissent, disagreement, all of these things are central, integral to both the universities. And I think that's the magic. The magic is to be able to agree and disagree with each other respectfully, right? And both those universities inculcate that.
Right.
But I think Oxford does it much more quietly, more classic, and Howard is very loud and I think to a certain extent over-marketed.
And a non-media question, more non-media question, which is that we're talking about these world-class institutions and we're talking about opportunity back home. Where do you see the bridges? How can these institutions engage with India more? One is like, of course, like through students.
Start giving us visas for once to the US.
Right.
Look, I think there's anyway a bridge happening with students. Right. I think that's really good. And we also have a situation in India now where students actually come back and give. That was not the case earlier. There was a brain drain, right? People used to study there and just stay there. That's not really the case. Some of it is to do with visa, and some of it is to just do with the fact that there is a lot of opportunity in India, and people want to come back to, take full use of that. So I think that bridge is anyway happening. But I think the other area, which is kind of not really happening, and I don't really know whether it's a university problem or whether it's an India as a country problem, why it hasn't happened. We have not really engaged with universities as a country. Like, look at China and the way it engages with universities, right? It sends students in mass. Sponsored by the government, then they need to come back and report in. They've sponsored all kind of halls. They've sponsored, different kind of institutions. I don't think India has done that to a very large extent, and that's why in a lot of universities, even Harvard, um, you find there's not that much of an India voice. There's much more of a China voice, right? Where they're able to put their point of view across, and India is not being able to do that. So my submission would be that we should have more sort of think tanks and groups, forums like this. This is perfect, right? Which is putting the India narrative across both ways, right? Not just getting Indians here, but making sure that people from Oxford are going back to India, and there's a two-way flow. I think that one of the things, reasons for success, I know we're not seeing big success in the last couple of months right now with America, but America is a very successful country and nation, and one of the reasons that it is so successful is that there is such a close relationship between the top academic institutions and government there, right? Now, that's not really the case in India, and we have some of the top institutions in the world. I mean, the IITs and the IIMs are building CEOs for all global companies, right? All global companies in the US, like 80% of them have Indian CEOs, right? So I think we need a little bit more of that the academic rigor is coming into policy and government. And I think that this is a great way to make a change with that. So
Thank you very much.
congratulations on that.
And if I have to give you one last comment from this forum that you want to convey to Indians, not only in this room, but actually all the 1.4 billion back home, any closing thought that you would like to make?
I absolutely love India. I'm 100% born, brought up, made in India. I really think it is the land of opportunity. Earlier, when I used to travel abroad, I was like, wow, right? You know, like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to buy this, and, you know, all of these things. And now it's like, okay, I come abroad, it's really nice. It's nice to see new things, meet new people. But then I can't wait to get home, where life is so easy in some ways, you know. You can get anything delivered to your house in 7 minutes. Have you ever heard of that? Ever heard of that? Like, teenagers don't go to the fridge. They just go to Blinkit. Right? They say, oh, I want a Coke, I'm not going to go to the fridge, I'll just order it from Blinkit, which is bad practice. Teenagers should not do that. But I'm saying it is really the land right now of opportunity. Things are very stable. We have a leadership that is democratically elected and very experienced, right? You may not agree with everything they do, that's fine. But the point is that you have stable, experienced leadership. And some of the things that are happening in the world right now really make you appreciate your own, right? So India is a great place. If one of the people here was asking a question, I think the grass is greener on the other side, and you should come back.
Thank you so much.